Hello and welcome back to Language, Culture, and Dr. Lou. And so today I wanted to do a short video, well, fairly short, relatively speaking, you know how I go on and on, um, about some words I found in English that are really funny sounding, but they're turns out they're real words. And I wanted to share some of those today with you. Because if for nothing else, they're fun to say and they spice up your vocabulary a little bit. You probably already know some of them, but maybe there's some that are new to you. So either way, um, I find these words are really funny because they're real and they sound so funny that you have to question, you would question, is that a real word like turducken or um, um, fibber jibber, flibber jibber, stuff like that. But I'm just concentrating on, real words. And the shortest one that I found it all that I want to include anyway is only two syllables. They're more fun to say if they have more syllables than that. But the first word is foppus. And foppus, of course, it's kind of fun to say. Say it with me. Foppus. Foppus. Anyway, and so I guess foppus, the meaning of it is resembling or being similar to a fop. It's an adjective. Uh, if someone is being foppus, they're acting like a fop. And who are the fops? You see all the folks in the funny, fancy wigs and all that. They're all examples of fops. These are super refined people who are very obsessive about and fastidious about their outward appearance and style, as well as form when it comes to behavior and all that. So we use this word in English today. You can use it to describe someone who is always obsessed with and always concerned with how their outfit's looking, like with how they look and how they look in the mirror, all that. If they're really concerned with how their outfit's looking like constantly, they're foppish. So that's it's sort of an insulting term a little bit. So you might not want to call anybody foppish to their face, but it's still a funny word, foppish. And so, again, that's the shortest word, only two syllables, foppish. What's even more fun to say than that? Cattywampus. So, cattywampus, this word is a variant from the word catawampus. Which is why I have that one in parentheses here. And cattywampus, we use that word to describe something being askew or crooked or even kitty corner to something else, like across from diagonally, like those two kitties at the intersection, kitty corner. And that's funny to me. That's why I prefer the cattywampus because we got kitty corner, cattywampus, kitty catty. I love that. Anyway, but so in addition to meaning askew and crooked like cattywampus does, the original word catawampus, it also was a reference to a fierce, wild, imaginary creature. So this thing is not a real creature, it's just imaginary, but it's very fierce and wild, and it's, well, an animal of sorts, but a creature. And so that's the ones you might have seen a sculpture. There are plenty of artists who do sculptures of catawampus. But anyway, so regardless of that, let's get back to the one I find is more fun to say, cattywampus. Say it with me, cattywampus. Anyway, so that's why the crooked lines and all that. And so how to use cattywampus in a sentence, how would we use it? Like, let's say we're talking about those row of houses there, those row of three houses, and we can say, oh, that orange one in the middle is totally cattywampus. right? At least the second floor. Anyway, but yeah, so that is a good example of something that is really cattywampus. And so what else is cattywampus is the trees in that forest in Poland. And so that forest, the name of it is the Crooked Forest because the trees sort of go um crooked from the time they get out of the ground and as opposed to straight up. So that's those trees there in that photo are really cattywampus. And what else is really cattywampus? One of the most famous uh pieces of architecture in the world. There's a tower in Pisa, Italy, that's looking all crooked because it's leaning. So we often call it the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but its real name is just the Tower of Pisa. And so we can also say, yeah, that tower in Italy, it is really cattywampus. So that's fun anyway, cattywampus to say. And now you know how to use it in a sentence and everything like that too. And it's so much more fun than just saying askew or crooked. Cattywampus, I don't know, gives me a little pleasure. And so what else is fun to say? Um, we of course have uh bumfuzzle. So bumfuzzle is a verb. To bumfuzzle is to confuse or to perplex. Um, and so it's also an adjective, bumfuzzled. Like, so if a situation is bumfuzzling you, if a situation bumfuzzles you, that means you're totally confused about it, a little like, what? Huh? You know, very yeah. And so that's the adjective bumfuzzled describes someone who is feeling super confused, lost, perplexed even, and bewildered. So they're bumfuzzled. And so I think that expression on the baby's face there is a good example of somebody who seems very bumfuzzled. Anyway, so there you go. And so that's not the last funny sounding word I have for you. Of course, taradiddle. It sounds pretty funny. Taradiddle is it's a lie or a fib, like a clever little lie. And honestly, nobody knows for sure where this word came from, taradiddle. There is a myth, however, that it came from the town of Taradiddle, Ireland. So that's why the postcard from Ireland. But the fact is, Taradiddle, Ireland itself is a taradiddle because the place does not exist. So it's a lie, it's a fib that the town of Taradiddle is an actual location, which means that word cannot possibly have even sprung up there because the place does not exist. So anyway, taradiddle, it's another way of saying a fib or a clever little lie. And other words for taradiddle include oh, trumpery or balderdash. Those are other kind of funny sounding words in English, trumpery, balderdash. But I would argue that taradiddle is even more fun to say than that. Anyway, so moving beyond taradiddle, what else sounds funny but is also a real word? Snickersnee. The Snickersnee, which has nothing to do with the candy bar Snickers or the laughing Snicker. Um, it comes from an old Dutch phrase, a phrase from Dutch. It came into English a couple of centuries ago, I think in the 17th century. And the phrase in Dutch meant to thrust and stab. So that kind of explains how what Snickersnee means in English, which is a knife fight of where you're thrusting and stabbing, that kind of fighting with knives anyway. So not a very pleasant experience. And also that's also why the word has come to mean We can say a snickersnee. It's a knife. It's a kind of knife, usually a very long bladed knife. There are hunting knives called snickersnees. There are kitchen knives called snickersnees. And it's a long bladed knife. And probably because loss thrusting and stabbing, what better to do that with than a long bladed knife? So again, it's a little upsetting what it means, but it is fun to say. Snickersnee. Yeah, so that's snickersnee. So what else is maybe fun to say and maybe less upsetting? Wittersons. Wittersons. This word has been around in English for at least 500 years. It comes from an old German word meaning to go against. And so what it means in English is uh, to go in a contrary motion, usually going left rather than right. And so it's very much going against the grain, going against in a contrary motion, and usually to the left. And that's why we most often we hear the term um, counterclockwise. That's if some it's if that guy is trying to move that clock Wittersons, so counterclockwise. And this is very fun to say, Wittersons, and even more fun to use in a real sense. Like, oh my Lord, that lady on the scooter there is totally going Wittersons, right? That's what it looks like to me anyway. So Wittersons, it's another word for counterclockwise or going um left instead of right in a contrary motion. And so it's kind of going against the grain. So Wittersons. And so Wittersons is pretty fun to say, but I think one that's much more fun to say is collywobbles. And the collywobbles, they're more fun to say than to experience anyway. So say it with me, collywobbles. Yep, collywobbles. And so collywobbles have nothing to do with the dog, the collie, or with cauliflower, or even really with wobbles, because it's not about nausea or anything like that. It's collywobbles, it is unpleasant to feel. It's an abdominal pain. It's a belly ache. It's a tummy ache. And oftentimes we use that when your stomach is hurting because of anxiety. Like, let's say, um, I might say, oh, I have a really important meeting with my boss tomorrow and it's really serious. I'm worried what's going to go happen there. And so I've got the collywobbles about it right now. That's pretty much if you have the collywobbles, that means you're you got belly pain and very possibly anxiety related. But so it's not a great situation, but it is very fun to say one more time, collywobbles. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed those words and now so you know how to say them and what they mean and even hopefully how to use them in a sense. Trust me, it's fun. And again, if you want to play this video back and just have fun pronouncing them. I think that's part of what's the most fun of these words is when you articulate them and hear those sounds coming out of your mouth and know the whole while that, yep, it's a real word. Anyway, so thank you as always to everybody who watches my videos to the very end. So please give this one a thumbs up and please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. So again, thanks as always for everybody who watches to the very end. And I had a lot of fun figuring out these words. Maybe I'll come up with some more videos about funny sounding words, but that are real words in English. Um, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you have any funny sounding words that you find really fun to say. another actual real words. That would be fun. Anyway, so thanks again. And I had a lot of fun today. And so see you around next time. Bye-bye.